At a time when we're talking about billionaires in this world, and we're thinking, my gosh, they just continue to run roughshod over their employees. They continue to rake in obscene amounts of money at a time when they're trying to clamp down and not allow their workers to unionize, extend, get extra money for working on the front lines during a pandemic, making sure that they don't have to be on their feet for 16 hours straight and not be paid accordingly. We now have this new report out this morning, which just is unbelievable. Global billionaires see $5.5 trillion in pandemic wealth surge.
Oh, good for them. They had it so rough. I mean, good for them.
Exactly. I am so happy that they finally have been able to get on their feet. I think they've been really down and out for a while.
Wait a minute. What's also funny is the CARES Act, we transferred $5 trillion to them as well. So shouldn't that technically be 10? Well, I guess some of the money didn't go to billionaires. It went to big corporations, but
yeah, not all of it went to them exactly, but
yeah,
enough of the CARES Act went to them. Global billionaires see $5.5 trillion pandemic wealth surge. The world's billionaires have seen their wealth surge by $5.5 trillion since the beginning of the pandemic in March 2020, a gain of over 68%. Did you know that the world has 2,690 global billionaires? Their combined wealth rose from 8 trillion up to 13.5 trillion as of just a few weeks ago. Global billionaire total wealth has increased more over the past 17 months of the pandemic than it did in the 15 years prior to the pandemic. Amazon's Jeff Bezos' wealth increased by $79.4 billion during the pandemic. And here's a guy who has the audacity to stand in the way of his workers unionizing in Alabama and other places where they continue to have to pee in bottles, where they are fired using an iPhone app rather than have human interaction, where they are quoted at how many packages they can deliver in a certain amount of time, and if they take a pee break or stop, they will be dinged, and that will go against their score, and then they likely be fired via an app because they haven't been able to produce via their quota.
So what you're saying is only Android users work there now? Because the app's not available on Android yet?
Wouldn't that be funny? It's the app they make, they don't work on all the phones. No, it works on every phone. You can be fired on an Android phone just as soon as you can be fired on an iPhone. So his wealth increased $79 billion during the pandemic, up from $113 billion in March. Now he's up to $192 billion. He could become the first trillionaire. Probably will in the next 6 years.
I thought he already had at one point. Don't you remember that? Don't you remember saying Jeff Bezos became the first? I just remember a story about that, but I don't know if I'm on an alternative reality or what.
Well, I mean, the company, is a trillion, but he personally, his personal wealth, he's at 192 billion now. Just a few more years, and he'll be the first trillionaire. An estimated 325 new billionaires joined the 3 Comma Club since the pandemic began.
Well, let's just hope once he's a trillionaire that he pays for his own rockets. You know what I mean?
Well, that brings me to that point.
I'm tired of paying for it, honestly. I'm tired of paying for his rockets, if I'm being honest.
Well, you know what he did, right? So he filed a lawsuit this week. He filed a lawsuit against NASA because NASA awarded the lunar the lunar lander to Elon Musk's company, SpaceX. So he's upset about the new rover being awarded to SpaceX, and he didn't get that contract. So he's suing NASA. Now, bear in mind, here's a guy who pays zero in taxes, who also was lined up for billions of dollars in tax incentives for him to launch his big flying, penis-shaped rocket, where he could go up and into space for 4 minutes and throw ping pong balls back and forth with a buddy, right? So the taxpayers foot the bill for him to have this rocket project. He pays $0 in taxes, and then he has the balls to sue the federal government because he didn't get a contract and Elon Musk got the contract. And he
What a
now is
little
sitting
baby.
on $192 billion. $192 billion dollars and crying about it.
I wanted that contract.
Nothing makes sense.
Exactly, Judge. Like I've been saying for a long time. I have to say, she always makes a lot of sense, right? She always nails it. Judge Janine always gets it right.
I put that dildo in space, and you people helped me pay for it so that I could land these big contracts to show that I'm a powerhouse in the space industry. And you're going to give it to Elon Musk? How dare you?
How dare you?
How dare you?
Nothing makes sense.
Yes. Governments have in the past turned to the wealthiest in response to major crises. After World Wars I and II, one-off wealth taxes were levied on European countries and Japan to fund reconstruction. France, for example, taxed excessive wartime wealth gains at a rate of 100% during war. Like, so all these people that made profit off of war, France was like, not going to happen. Remember, we were invaded by the Nazis. Remember, we were taken over by the Nazis. You made massive profits during the war? How about we tax this at 100% in order for the betterment of the country? You did really darn well. Why don't we tax that so that we can rebuild our country? But no, we can't tax the wealthy right now during a pandemic. We can't do it. Joe Manchin and others and Republicans certainly don't want to do it when wealth is off the charts for these companies and billionaires. How are we going to pay for it? How are we going to do it? I don't know how we're going to do it. I got an idea. Follow what other countries have done. More recently, following the global financial crisis in 2008, countries including Iceland introduced temporary wealth taxes to help refill public coffers. Imagine.
Is there any way that if we do this, we could get can we get a third party to manage the money? Where's the Treasury? Like, where's the Treasury these days? How come we never hear of the Treasury anymore? Like, are they not in charge of the dollar at all anymore? Like, what? Like, who could we trust to give it to manage this money so that if they did tax the rich and these wealthy corporations, that it would at least go to infrastructure and not to back into their own hands?
Don't give it to the United States Treasury. I mean, don't give it to Janet Yellen and these guys. You know, give it to the give it to the International Monetary Fund. Give it to the IMF. There's a solution. Give it to the IMF.
Yeah,
see if they can.
IMF is the one that's like has all these centralized banks all over the world, and why all these countries are emboldened to us, or not.
Who should we give it to? Beholden to.
Beholden. Let's give it to
the World Bank. What about the World Bank? What about the UN?
What about E.F. Hutton? I think E.F. Hutton could probably do something, because when that guy talks, you know what I mean?
Yeah. What about Warren Buffett? Give it to Warren Buffett.
Yeah, let's give it to somebody responsible, because if we just give the government more money, that doesn't help us at all. Like, none of it. We already see that the money that we give them only goes to war. So think about the war budget we would give them if they taxed all these wealthy corporations. They'd be like, the war budget doesn't matter anymore, you guys. We just got all this money from Bezos and all these big companies. Guess what? We're gonna launch new jets. Let's buy some more nuclear weapons. How many billions can we just like throw at this to make sure the people don't get a dime?
Yeah, I agree. You know, policymakers, we have leading economists, you have, civil society organizations, you have the UN, you have the IMF, you have the World Bank. They're all basically calling right now for like solidarity taxes and longer term wealth taxes. So all of these, the UN, the IMF, and the World Bank, they're all saying solidarity taxes. All of these trillionaires, basically, let's tax them. Stand in solidarity. How many yachts do you need? Newsflash, none. None. Like the yacht that I own, I never hardly use it. You know, I can't even keep all the caviar stocked fresh. You know, it's just more of a headache for me. And Captain Steubing, who runs the thing, like he's always like, where are we going, Captain Clayton? Like, I don't know. I got to work.
Even on a state level side, right? Or city level, let's say city level side, city level government. if city level government, like let's say Seattle, for instance, where you've got this huge homeless population and a really crazy like stuff going on with homeless and all that. If you have companies like Microsoft, Amazon, you take a huge portion of their profits and put it towards that in a local level. Take it at the local level. Don't give it to the federal government. Make them because the homelessness could be wiped out with those two corporations alone in every city in Washington,
Right.
if you did it on the state level.
Yeah, imagine using money from the super rich to like mitigate homelessness, right? To think about, or even just the economic impacts of the pandemic, not even just like homelessness, just hunger, food insecurity. Imagine just taxing them a little bit. It could eradicate homelessness and hunger in the United States.
Yeah,
Food
you want
insecurity.
to do something progressive? Make a rail line that goes from Facebook to Google to Amazon to, you know what I mean? Like all these companies, make something that actually benefits people. You fix the roads to get people to your job. You fix the things that people need to work for you. You provide the housing that they need to be happy to live, to come work for you and make you all this money.
Not going to happen. Sadly.
Not going to happen.
But hey, in Argentina, here's what happened. They approved a one-off special levy dubbed the millionaire tax. It's brought in around $2.4 billion to pay for pandemic recovery. They taxed the millionaires to help out. They've been, wow, you guys made $5.5 trillion during this pandemic. That seems out of whack. That seems out of whack with what's going on in the rest of the world right now and these countries. Maybe you guys can step up and help out instead of, launching yourselves into space at a time when people don't even have homes. Maybe you postpone that flight. I don't know. Like just my take. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Love to hear that.
How about this, Clayton? Let's you and I manage the money.
Okay.
I mean, I know how to balance a checkbook. I'm pretty good. I keep it all in my head. I do pretty well with my own finances. I know that would be at a higher level, but I think we could probably do better than the government.
I think so. I think
we would definitely end every war. I think that we wouldn't be putting any money toward that. We would have a strong defense. We would build a nice defense here at home, and then we would invest the rest into infrastructure and the people.
I think that sounds great.
It's simple.
I think that sounds great. Yeah, there would not be. We would be able to tick these billionaires off like the list. Instead of adding 100 billionaires to the list every year under our regime, we'd be losing billionaires every year, and we would be losing homelessness and poverty, and we would start to get more like this, more homogenized.
I try to be a very positive person. I really do, in spite of what you guys hear me say on the show every day. But the thing is, I don't want to give these people credit when they come out and they say, we're going to help 50% of the impoverished kids in this country, because in my mind, I see them standing there with enough food to feed this entire country, and they're picking 50% of the kids and saying, we're going to help you. Well, what are you going to do with the rest of that food? Well, some of it's going to go to waste. Some of it, we don't know. I know we've got plenty to help you all, but we're only going to help half of you because if we help all of you, nobody's going to respect us. You're going to like be dependent on us and everything. And you're going to get the Republicans are thinking you're going to want to live off of us the rest of your lives from cradle to grave. And we just can't have that. It's like, it
Right.
never goes far enough. Ever does it go far enough. And I don't like giving them credit for saving 50% of kids when they could save 100.
Right. Yeah. So 2 years of free college. Like we can't give you the full 4 years of college in the United States and under this plan. We're going to give you 2 years. Okay.
And in my mind, that is a major investment in infrastructure.
Yes, it is. No wonder we keep falling behind the rest of the world. So Donald Ford says, so you're in favor of government theft as long as they're stealing from the rich. No, Donald, a tax. That's not theft. You're taxing this wealth. And by the way, when we talk about theft, think about all of these companies that are paying zero in taxes. Zero, right? Or these tax cheats that are hiding money offshore and they're going through all sorts of hoops and hurdles to hide this money. And the estimates are we could bring in over $1 trillion at the IRS level if we would actually fund them appropriately so they could actually go after these tax cheats. On top of which, there's 35 million Americans who have paid for their tax refunds and they're backlogged and sitting on a desk somewhere.
If they I would not care if they paid zero in taxes and they got every incentive in the world as long as they took care of people. The problem that I have is not the fact that they're making the money that they're making. It's that it's the people that are making what they're making. That's the problem. If they took care of people, which they could, like look at Dan Price. If they all took care of people like he did, and it was more where they were only 4% or 8% away from us rather than like 800% or whatever it is, then that's one thing. I think that if capitalism worked that way, that would be fine. But what ends up happening every single time is these people get ultra rich while their workers stay ultra poor, and it keeps them in a place where they have to work because they have to survive. Whereas you could create an environment where they want to work and they can survive. And so that's the problem that I have.
Right. I mean, look at the employee at a Starbucks. I mean, most of the Starbucks I go to, I remember Megan. She was the store manager at the Starbucks where I used to live in Florham Park, New Jersey. And she was, hey, Clayton. Like, I would come in. She got to know me. She would ask my name. She's like, oh, yeah, your drink is right over there. And I would get this one pressed coffee or whatever. And everyone, the other employees were like super happy. They were getting health benefits. They were getting paid well. They weren't, being like, oh, you don't get paid because you worked a longer shift, so you don't get paid time and a half because we asked you. No, they were actually treated well. And I remember his name, Dan, who worked there. We would talk about tech stuff all the time, and we were talking about new iPhone that just came out of this and that, and we were always engaged in conversation. He was such a pleasant person. And then you go to these other service in places where the employees hate life because they hate being treated like crap. They are treated like crap. They're paid like crap. No wonder they're miserable and they don't want to be there. So I don't put it past a person who's 19 years old who works at a McDonald's who's like, next. They're treated like the dredge of society, sadly. End up having to work and 3 jobs.
Look at the thinking like Dan Price. Like, they think that person just has a bad attitude. You know what? You've just got a really bad attitude. You don't want to be here. You don't show up on time. Like, why don't they ever look back at themselves and think, like, what if you were paying that person enough that they could pay their bills and then have some money left to go do things on the weekend? After work, they don't have to go home and try to figure out like how to pick up their kids and how to afford daycare and all that stuff. They could go out after they got off work because they've got money to leave the kid in daycare for a couple hours while they go enjoy life, go walk at a park, go sit down, go have a coffee somewhere or a drink with a friend. But it's like you're putting people in positions where they're on stress level 10 their whole entire existence because they're not getting paid well. They're treated like crap because they have a bad attitude, because they're not being paid well, because their life sucks to them. So make their life not suck and think of like how much that would help your profits, because I, as a customer, don't want to go talk to people that have that attitude. If I go somewhere and people are friendly, guess what? I have a good experience. I'm going back. And I'm going to go back again. I'm going to say, hey, you need to go check out this experience at this place. These people were great. So it's just this big circle and nobody gets it. It's like they don't understand that if the better you treat people, the better you pay people, the happier they're going to be, the happy your customers are going to be because they're going to want to deal with those people. And it's just this big circle.
Yeah, you always want to go back to where you've had a good experience, right? I mean, that's the way we operate. I mean, that's why we go to certain restaurants here, because we love the service, we love the food, we love the atmosphere, we love the experience. Why would you want to go to a place if you get terrible, angry people who are just they don't want to be there? It's just a bad experience. The whole, the whole culture of the place is rotten. You don't want to support it. You don't want to be a part of it. You don't want to give money to support it. And that's the way I feel about, these big companies. When I see like a Frito-Lay thing, or I see Nabisco, or I see this crap, and they're walking all over their employees. Like, I don't want to give these companies money. I don't want to enrich their executive board while these workers are literally on the street begging to be treated like a human being, and they're striking so that they don't have to, like work their bones to the core, by standing there for 12 hours when they should be paid time and a half if they have to work an extra couple of hours. I mean, these companies continue to walk all over people, and it's absolutely disgusting.
Well, there was a place in Boston, a bar, and people would walk in there and they actually knew their name, I think it was called Cheers or something like that.
I was going to say. I was like, are you thinking?
And those had to be some happy, like well-paid people, because they were there like every hour of every day, and they knew everybody's name. Yeah.
Woody was always there. Carla. Although Carla
think how
was
much they
always-
must have paid those people. Yeah, Carla was, but still, she went home. You see her apartment. She had a nice apartment. Like,
Yeah.
they were taken care of.
Thanks for subscribing to the channel. You can also become a channel member by going to morninginvest.com/join, where you can stick it to the mainstream media and support independent journalism. We're able to bring you the stories that you won't see on any of the major billionaire-backed networks. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time, everyone.